Anaheim Ducks finally fire coach Randy Carlyle, and nobody is surprised. Now, Anaheim sits at the very bottom of the Western Conference, tied with LA with a record of 21, 26, and 9 with 51 points, but LA has one game in hand. And they're still only, 6 points out of a playoff spot, a wild card position? It's crazy! That's boom, yeah. That's especially seeing as how they're 2-8-0 in their last 10. They've lost 7 in a row, and they've only won 2 in their past 21 games. Remember that 12-game losing streak? Yup. And it's not just that, it's the way they're losing. It's like 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. They're just getting hammered out there. And the defense, who any other team in the league would love to cherry-pick one of their top 4, is playing like they just don't care. They're almost indifferent in their own zone. It's just extremely sloppy, and it's unbelievable. Now, the Ducks are minus 55 in goal difference. By far the worst in the league. The next worst team, no, it's not Ottawa, is LA with a minus 33. That's a difference of that's a 22 goal difference. 22. Now, the next worst team after that, yeah, it's Ottawa. As well as New York Rangers, somewhat surprisingly enough, with a minus 29 goal differential. So, in saying all that, let's talk briefly about poor John Gibson. Their goalie, in 44 games played so far, he's 17, 19, and 8 with 2 shutouts, 2.93 goals against, and a .914 save percentage. That's amazing. That's amazing. Especially considering how they're playing and their record. Because he sees by far the most rubber in the league. 1,434 shots. Now, the next closest to him in shots against is Marc-Andre Fleury, and there's a 67 shot difference. That's like almost 2 games, right? You follow me so far? A 2-game difference in shots, but Marc-Andre Fleury has played 5 more games. 5 more games! Now, the stats pretty much will speak for themselves. Now, I think Murray fired Carlyle, besides firing him probably way too late into the season, he probably picked this time because the Anaheim doesn't play until Wednesday against the Vancouver Canucks. And as you heard, Murray's stepping behind the bench. Now, he has no coaching experience. Forget NHL, AHL, OHL, WHL, whatever HL. He has no coaching experience. And the last time that I can remember, correct me if I'm wrong, of any GM stepping into the coach's position and doing both roles, especially with the trade deadline not too far away. I know Dave Nonis is his assistant manager, and he used to be GM of the Maple Leafs, so he's got plenty of experience in that retrospect. But still, I want to say it was Pat Quinn. Maybe if you let me know in the comment section if I'm wrong or there's somebody else there. Now, in Carlyle's return with the Ducks, because he spent about 3.5 years with the Maple Leafs in between, and before that, in his first tour duty with the Ducks, Carlyle took them to 3 conference finals and won a Stanley Cup with them in 2007. So I digress. Carlyle's record in the second stint with Anaheim is 111, 74, and 35. Now, the Ducks say they'll be looking to replace, they're looking for a new coach in the summertime, but it pretty much looks like, according to Insider Sportsnet journalist Chris Johnson, the Dallas Eakins, who's head coach of the San Diego Gulls, their AHL affiliate, has the inside track on the job. And if you remember Dallas Eakins, his last job before that was as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, one of the many coaches fired in the past 6-7 years with them. I remember that incident, especially with Taylor Hall, when he got back to the bench and he whipped his water bottle and it kind of exploded and it hit Eakins, and he flipped out of him live on the bench, and you remember that's Eakins. And before that, he had a great run with the Toronto Marlies, the Toronto Maple Leafs AHL affiliate, which is basically how he made a name for himself. Because before that, he was a player in the NHL, kind of a vagabond, so to speak. He played for everyone. He was a forward, I want to say a winger. But in any case, as I said, Murray's taken the reins now with no coaching experience whatsoever, and you think, okay, well, this could help him on a positive note by really getting his hands dirty, so he can evaluate players on who needs to stay, who needs to go. In which case, he'll relay that to Nonis, and they'll try and work some magic, because that's what it's going to have to be before the trade deadline. At this point, I would just lose for Hughes. Because I think they could really use him. Their core is really old right now, and everyone else on the team is just completely lacking in inspiration, desperation, urgency, you name it. Any shun out there, they're lacking it. Now, Murray, Bob Murray, used to play for the Chicago Blackhawks for 15 years. Between 1975 and 1990 as a right-shot defenseman. I believe he was even the captain for a very short period of time. And then shortly thereafter is when his executive career started, actually right off the bat in 1990, as his player career ended. He became, I want to say, he worked in player development / scouting with Chicago, and then went on to become the general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks for 3 years, between 97 and 2000, to which afterwards he went to work for the Vancouver Canucks as one of their head scouts for about 5 years or so, and then got a job, was hired in Anaheim right around 2005, as their vice president of player development, and he worked really close with Brian Burke, who was GM there at the time, and that was a position he was in when Anaheim won their Stanley Cup with Carlyle back in 2007, and of course the next summer there in 2008 is when Murray took over as the GM. And then he, of course, I want to say he won the General Manager of the Year award in the NHL in the 2013-14 season. So it's not like he's stepping behind the bench, with zero experience, but still he's never coached before, and that just sounds strange. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this, should he be stepping behind the coach, or should he be giving it to, one of the interim coaches, of whom don't have any AHL or NHL coaching experience either, which I think is a little bizarre for both of them neither to have any of that experience. Now, I know there's other assistant coaches in the league that don't either. I mean, off the top of my head, I want to say Sheldon Kennedy of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mind you, he went on to win a championship in the OHL, I want to say with the Oshawa Generals. But I know he's got so much experience now that, let's say they fired Babcock, which would never happen, but if they did, and he stepped behind the bench, at least as an interim, I'd have some sort of, I'd be okay with that. I'd be fine with that. Having the GM step behind the bench, as when he's had no coaching experience before, and you can't trust one of those interns. Anaheim fans, I would love to hear your thoughts about those interim coaches as well, if you have any inside information there. In any case, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you happen to have any Hockey Geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.